Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras, and coming up in today's newscast, as elections come even closer, it looks like Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's Likud party is becoming stronger in the polls. The Israeli Health Ministry makes a dramatic announcement about the coronavirus and will reveal which two major Israeli pop stars are making huge waves in the United States. In just 4 days' time, Israelis are heading to the polls to vote in the third consecutive elections in less than a year. But the latest surveys are now predicting that Prime Minister Netanyahu's Likud party has an edge against his main rival, Benny Gantz's Blue and White alliance. Two major polls by Israel's Channel 12 and Kan News predict Likud winning 34 of the Knesset's 120 seats, with Blue and White getting just 33. The last few days have seen campaigns becoming more and more personal, with the Likud seeking to portray Gantz as mentally incapable of running the country, and Gantz accusing Netanyahu of being a criminal who's engineering legislation to curtail the criminal cases against him. Israel Beitenu leader Avigdor Lieberman says he's now dropping his demand for a unity government and no longer wants to form a coalition with Netanyahu at all, and in the meantime, Blue and White is stepping up its attacks within its own camp as well. It's likely because Gantz is claiming that Lieberman will only sit in a government with the Blue and White party if it wins the most seats in the election. But Blue and White also says that they will not include the joint Arab list in a future government either. All right, now as Israel heads to the polls for the third time in less than a year, we can't help but wonder, is this really the last time? Joining us now in the studio to discuss what Israel's future government is going to look like is Avi Hyman, the director of the Likud Party's Anglo campaign, and Yossi Yona, a former Knesset member for the Labor Party and a professor at Ben-Gurion University of the Negev. Thank you both so much for being with us today.
Thanks.
Now, I'll just open this one up to the floor. Avi, maybe you want to start us off. Why should the undecided voter vote for the Likud at this point?
Well, we've never had a better decade from an economic point of view, from a stability point of view, security point of view. Things have never been better. We've got an incredible relationship with the White House. We have the best friend in the White House. We have amazing opportunities on the brink that we can take care of. If we don't vote for the Likud, things will be very, very different. From an economic point of view, we will move away from free markets. From a security point of view, we'll start umming and ahhing on security positions, and we could lose the opportunity of a lifetime, which is the deal of the century.
But Gantz has said that he supports the deal of the century.
Well, he does say that, as long as the United Nations and the European Union agree, and the chance of that happening is minimal. To say the least, and at the end of the day...
But the plan also necessitates some Palestinian involvement, and so far there isn't any anyway.
Well, absolutely, but the plan also, for the first time ever, gives Israel a carrot instead of a stick and says, Israel, you can apply Israeli law over Judea and Samaria, over your communities in Judea and Samaria. That's huge. That was done by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and that will not be achieved by anyone else.
Yoni?
Well, I don't know about the deal of the century. The way I see it is actually everybody knows by now that it is part of election campaign on part of Netanyahu, and actually it makes no impact. And of course, it's ridiculous then when you come up and put on the table a peace initiative that I totally ignore the other side and doesn't see them as a partner to discussion about that. And by the way, I think that the Likud's polls have shown that it makes no impact on the Likud potential voters. So this is vis-a-vis this issue. Vis-a-vis the other issues that my friend here, Avi, talked about, in terms of as if, Israel have never seen such economic prosperity. And well, of course, I disagree about that. There are a lot of people, I think about 20% of the Israeli population living under the poverty line. We have seen the crisis in the medical area, schooling areas, where we have the largest gaps in the OECD countries, in terms of achievement between poor kids and wealthy kids. So I don't see it as my friend Avi is kind of presenting it, kind of a rosy picture that should lead people to vote for the Likud at large and Netanyahu specifically.
Well, I want to move now, and Yossi, I'll stay with you. I want to move now maybe to the more practical. Can the left, or the right for that matter, form a coalition? Because right now the numbers aren't for either of them. Lieberman has said that he won't sit with Netanyahu, but he's also now saying again that he won't sit with the Arab parties. So
yeah, well, we are in a bind, and as you know, we're nearing the election day, and it seems that we're going to be stuck again with a tie. What would happen? Of course, well, there is the aspiration on part of the Likud that they would be able, like the center-right would win 61 seats in the parliament and then they'll form a coalition government. I don't see it happening. But on the other hand, it seems that we're going again towards a tie. Now, what would happen in such a case? I do believe that at the end of the day, and though I'm very, very, kind of afraid of making all these prophecies, because, it's very dangerous business. But nonetheless, I do believe that we're going to have a unity government, and I also conjecture that Netanyahu would not be part of that.
All right. Well, so Avi, I actually kind of want to ask you something else now. Assuming that there isn't a tie, or I'm sorry, assuming that there is a tie, and that we do go to fourth elections, Netanyahu is now facing trial, and Gantz is also facing investigations of his own. How do you think that would weather their campaigns ahead of that?
Well, when we're talking about the campaign, the Likud strategy for the campaign is all-out victory, and that means if you look at the polls of today, we're up to 59 with the right-wing bloc, 35 seats for the Likud. Now, I don't necessarily buy polls. What I know is historically Likud goes past what the polls say. So we're saying there was 300,000 Likud voters that didn't come out last election. We're saying if we can get them out, and we've seen an unprecedented campaign by the Prime Minister, doing 2 to 3 events a night, going to the base, pumping the base, saying if you want me as the Prime Minister, you better get out and vote for me. That might just do it. I think it will do it. I think we will get past the 61. I think Netanyahu will be the Prime Minister once again. And yeah.
I disagree with this kind of the way that Avi is seeing it. As I said, I think we're going to end up with a tie. And as I was saying before, we're going to probably have a unity government, though Netanyahu would have to step down.
Well, I certainly hope. I think I speak for a lot of Israelis when we say, unity government would be amazing. But really anything to end the cycle of elections. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
All right. Now, the Israeli Health Ministry has just made a dramatic announcement. Israelis are being urged to seriously consider refraining from traveling abroad at all as Israel attempts to isolate itself from the novel coronavirus outbreak that is rapidly spreading across the globe. ILTV's Nittany Manson reports.
If you don't have to genuinely fly, don't do so. That's the message from the Israeli government, making Israel the first country to urge its citizens to refrain from international travel altogether following the outbreak of the coronavirus. This comes after several other countries have announced that they've identified cases of the virus on their soil over the past 2 days, including the United States and Latin America. Tuesday marked the first day since the beginning of the epidemic that more new cases were recorded abroad than in China, where the disease began. The coronavirus outbreak began back in December of 2019 in Wuhan, China, and has since infected over 80,000 people worldwide and killing more than 2,000 people. Israel has already banned the entry of any foreigners who have been to China, Hong Kong, Macau, Thailand, Singapore, South Korea, and Japan in the 14 days prior. All Israelis returning home from Italy must enter a 14-day home quarantine immediately, and the Israeli government is advising the cancellation of all international conferences or gatherings in Israel in the coming months. The Israeli Health Ministry has come under fire for panicking people and causing economic and diplomatic damage to the country in the process, but claim they'd prefer to make harsher measures now than be sorry later. El Al, Israel's premier airline, is warning that it and other Israeli carriers could collapse financially in a matter of just weeks if the health ministry continues to be so stringent with travel restrictions. El Al claims it's already sustained $50 million in damages due to the coronavirus. This comes as 3 more Israelis who were diagnosed from the coronavirus have recovered, with 1 patient slated to be discharged from an Israeli hospital and 2 more headed home from Japan.
So is Israel overreacting to the coronavirus, or are we all in grave danger? In the studio to discuss is columnist for Newsweek and editor of HistoryCentral.com, Marc Shulman. Marc, so tell us, first of all, I love your tie. I just want to point that out. It's very timely. It's very appropriate. It's very timely. But why is Israel responding so strongly to the coronavirus?
Okay, for 2 reasons. First of all, Israel has the ability to do so. One of our great disadvantages, but what works out to be one of our advantages, is effectively, we have only one real border crossing. I mean, a little bit in Ramon and Eilat, but basically Ben Gurion Airport is the one way in and the one way out of this country. So we're able to control the flow more than any other country practically in the world, certainly better than the United States or any European countries. There aren't thousands of ways to come in and out, and therefore we can do so. Second of all, look, is it overreacting? We're trying our best to keep it out or limit it to the greatest possible we can. We realize we're not prepared internally for it. We have hospitals that have 140% occupancy in good times, and we certainly can't afford to have a virus like this where we just don't have the ability to deal on that level. Look, it's so hard to say is it an overreaction. The Japanese have closed all their schools through March. I mean, they have many cases. We aren't doing anything like that. We're just trying to keep people from traveling. We're trying to keep travelers away. Economically, it's going to be a disaster, obviously. I mean, we know El Al is in deep trouble. They can lose $50 million, and it's going to probably be worse. I mean, they first lost their main routes, not the main routes, but one of their best routes to the Far East, and now, of course, no one's traveling at this point. Sure. So they're really in trouble. The tourist industry, hotels, everything like that. But we need to be worried beyond that. If we're heading into a worldwide recession, it's going to affect us all in different ways as well. You know, all these multinational corporations we're so thrilled to have here may say, well, we need to cut back because profits are down. What are they likely to cut? The thing that's far away. So we need to be worried about these matters as well. So look, we have to react. If the government didn't react, we'd say they're not doing enough. We don't know enough, of course. That's part of the problem. We still don't know enough because so much of this took place in China.
So you don't think that this is reactionary? I mean, this is an appropriate precaution to take to say, listen, if you don't need to go anywhere, just don't.
No, that's for sure. There's no reason not to say that. The question about turning people away at the borders, that becomes a little bit questionable because it hurts our international relations and our standing with these countries. But I don't think it's a bad idea. Why would you want to go right now? We have so many unknowns in the world right now that it makes no sense for anyone to travel right now, quite honestly, if you don't have to. Of course, if you have to visit a sick relative or if you have a very important business meeting, of course, go. But if you don't have to, why at this point? I mean, I can't really see any reason.
All right, well, the dangers are out there. The ministry is giving us lots of warning, I suppose, and we'll see what happens. Marc, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right, following yet another round of violence with Gaza, and with just days left before elections, security is on the lips of every Israeli politician. Of course, though, the left and the right are painting very different pictures for Israeli voters. While members in the current coalition threaten harsh responses for violent escalation, opposition leaders like Blue and White's Benny Gantz accuse Prime Minister Netanyahu of being an agent for the status quo at best. So who's right? Well, as you might expect, the answer is pretty gray. It's true that in just the past 2 years, there have been at least 10 sustained escalations with Palestinian terrorists in the Strip, and that's not including the 20 months of weekly riots along the border. It's also true that there's no feeling another round of clashes isn't around the corner, and every rocket barrage, terror groups like Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad become more deadly. In the latest 48-hour conflict this week, Islamic Jihad fired nearly 100 rockets at southern Israel. Nearly 85% were directed at populated areas, requiring interception by the Iron Dome. Yet with every escalation, the IDF's goal does seem to be not to rock the boat too much. The cost of full-out war is high in many respects. But on the other hand, it's also true that Israel has been responding quite harshly against terror-run installations and occasionally against enemy combatants. Under the interim defense ministry of Naftali Bennett, Israel is also launching attacks into Syria, hitting the Iranian backers behind Islamic Jihad in retaliation for their attacks, as well as putting emphasis on capturing terrorist bodies as bargaining chips in negotiations. Moving on, what does a quote-unquote normal family look like? Well, the definition is pretty fluid, and a new Israeli campaign is now trying to remind everyone of this fact. Here to tell us all about it is chairperson of the Association for LGBTQ Equality in Israel, Hila Pe'er. Thank you so much for being with us. It's a pleasure. So please tell us, first of all about your new campaign.
Well, first of all, our campaign is the answer of the Aguda, the LGBT Association for Equality in Israel. It's our answer to the Noam Party's campaign that was in last election, calling for homophobia and saying that a normal family can only consist of a father and mother. We're here to show that none of the gay families, none of the LGBTQ families have horns. We're as normal as everybody else. We just want to have families. We want to have kids. We want to love each other.
Does it end there, or is there ultimately maybe a push also for a legislation change?
Well, the main cause, basically ever since 1988, which is the abolition of the Homosexual Act that made being gay in Israel illegal, there was no sufficient progress in lawmaking for equality in Israel. And most of the progress that we've had in the last few years was made through courts, and that is not stable enough. And seeing that we're all supposed to be equal under the law, this is a part of what we're calling for, legislationally changes.
So where is this campaign primarily targeting? Is this just in Tel Aviv?
No, not at all. This is the beauty of it. LGBTQ people are all across Israel. Every city and every settlement has a gay community. And this is what we're coming to show. We have signs all the way up from Afula down to Beersheba, Jerusalem, Ramat Gan, Tel Aviv. But there shouldn't be a tendency for LGBTQ people to live in a certain city because of its way of accepting the community now. We need to aspire to make it more and more progressive.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about some of the families that are on the posters here?
I'd love to. Well,
Please.
we have families that have kids. We have families that don't have kids. There's a trans couple, a religious trans woman with her partner and their kids together. We have couples of gay men, basically just to show the variety. And there are dozens and dozens of pictures that we weren't able to post on signs, but are online.
Where did you get the photos? Were these submissions from
We
around
were
the
just
country?
opening up a call for LGBTQ families to come and take their picture taken. Nobody even knew the big and the size of the signs that we're going to have. We were just calling out to the community to help with the exposure of us around the surface.
All right, and final question. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time, but what are the responses so far to this campaign?
Well, basically, it's a positive campaign. We're not here to battle anybody. We're here to show that we're just like anybody else. So not too many bad responses, though I have to be honest and say we kind of live in our own bubble. And once we step out of it, we have seen quite a few homophobia incites and bad phrases about the community. But all we can do is try and spread out the good things about this and hopefully get it out.
Hilat, thank you so much. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, in other news, it really pays to work in Israeli high-tech companies, which makes sense considering Israel is the so-called startup nation. And now a new Israeli report on high-tech employment confirms all the opportunities. But it isn't all sunshines and rainbows. ILTV's Nittany Manson has the scoop.
Nearly 40% of all open positions in Israel in 2019 were software and product infrastructure, with an emphasis on cybersecurity and data science. And overall, tech workers both make more in average salary and make up over 9% of the total Israeli economy, up from 8% in 2018. This according to a joint report just released by Startup Nation Central and the Israeli Innovation Authority. But while this means good high-paying jobs are available and multiplying, they're still only available to a select few. In fact, the report shows that there remain a huge deficit in human capital. In other words, too many empty jobs and not enough people to fill them. And that can have dire consequences on Israel's economy if not addressed. Well, here's the good news. The growth of this deficit is appearing to slow down as more and more demographics are entering the considered employee pool, including from ultra-Orthodox and Arab Israeli communities. Unfortunately, the only major exception to this rule has been among women, whose employment has stayed still at about 30% of the industry.
Animal crackers, Mickey Mouse pancakes, and now sushi pizza? ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh is here to show us one Israeli restaurant that is taking food with a twist to a whole new level.
Welcome to Sushina, the place that offers sushi in junk food form, and it's the first of its kind in Israel. Just an hour drive outside of Tel Aviv, you'll get a culinary experience like never before.
So I'm going to go ahead and try a Sushi Pizza, which is apparently a sushi pizza, sushi burrito, sushi hot dog, and sushi burger, which I've never heard of before, and I'm very interested in trying it because I'm a burger fanatic. So let's go.
התחלנו לעשות סושי בבית, וניסינו כל מיני צורות, רולים רגילים וכאלה, ובסוף כזה נהיה משעמם, והתחלנו לשחק עם זה. כאילו שזה ג'אנק פוד, אבל סושי.
החלטנו לפתוח את המסעדה, חשבנו איפה ואנחנו רוצים משהו מיוחד, ואז צץ הרעיון לפתוח בחצר של בית, ואז איכשהו הכל השתלב עם פה, עם העברה.
לא ציפינו לכזאת הצלחה. אמרנו, נעשה את זה ככה בקטנה, פעם בשבוע. יבואו אנשים מהכפר, יתלהבו ונגמר העניין, אבל עפנו עם זה.
לפעמים אני לא מעכלת שזה אמיתי, כי ההצלחה הגיעה בבום אחד.
יש את הבוריטו, שזה כמו לאפה כזה, אז באמת אוכלים את זה כמו שאוכלים בוריטו. נקניקיה אותו דבר, זה בצורה של נקניקיה, זה רול כזה שאנחנו פותחים שזה כביכול הלחמניה, ומבפנים אנחנו שמים את הסלמון או מה שמבקשים, ואוכלים את זה ממש כמו נקניקיה. יש לנו את הפיצה שהיא המנה הכי פוטוגנית נראה לי שיש פה. המבורגר יש לנו.
המבורגר יש כמה, יש את ה... אפשר, אתם תראו, יש את המטוגן ולא מטוגן. יש לנו ספיישל שהוא צ'יזבורגר. שיש גבינה בסושי עם האורז עצמו, זה מדהים.
וזה ממש טעים.
זה מדהים, גם אני עשיתי את הפרצוף הזה, אבל זה מדהים.
את תנסי תכף ואת תראי שזה...
תביני על מה מדובר.
שזה יישאר רק בחמישי, קודם כל כי זה סושי נורא מיוחד. אם זה יהיה ביום-יום, אז זה יהיה משעמם אחרי זה. ובשאר הימים, היא בעבודה שלה, אני בעבודה שלי, אנחנו משלבות את זה.
יש לנו חיים מעבר.
Oh my God, that looks so good. But anyway, Statik and Ben El, there isn't anybody in Israel who doesn't know this Israeli pop duo sensation, and now the young musicians are getting ready to take over the American music industry. ILTV's Nittany Manson has all of the details.
Hey, Aaron, that's right. So Statik and Ben El have made headlines after signing a 10-year contract worth up to $500 million with Capitol Records. And then soon after that, they released their first international hit with famous rapper and music producer Pitbull. They started their media tour in the States at the morning show Good Morning America.
Wow. All right. It's so exciting seeing those two on one of the biggest morning shows in the United States. Yeah. It's amazing exposure for the duo as well, and also so inspiring for so many young Israelis here.
Yeah, I mean, Israelis have all been freaking out over the fact that the two made a hit song with Pitbull, and the song Further Up has actually reached over 18 million views on YouTube alone.
Wow. So, all right. So how exactly did this collaboration even come about?
So during the Good Morning America interview, Pitbull recalled getting a call from his friend Chaim Saban. And for those who don't know who that is, he's one of the biggest Israeli-American media moguls in the world. He's the billionaire that actually created and produced the famous Power Rangers TV show and franchise, if you've ever heard of it.
That's Saban.
So Saban reached out to Pitbull to see if he would record a single with the duo.
All right, it is so fun and such an upbeat song. You know, it's hard not to dance when you hear it.
Yeah,
it's
and
got a good rhythm.
It's actually funny because a lot of people keep saying that the song sounds really familiar, and actually there's a reason for that. The song samples the 1995 Here Comes the Hot Stepper by Jamaican artist Inni Kamouz. I hope I said his name right. So it's really amazing remix, and it puts a young, fresh twist on the already really famous song.
All right, well, I'm sure they're just going to continue to get bigger and bigger throughout their media tour this year, and hopefully we'll be hearing some more hits from the duo soon. Thank you so much for the update, Nittany.
My pleasure.
All right, let's take a look at the weather forecast. The weekend is finally here, and Friday is expected to be nice and sunny with a high of 73 degrees Fahrenheit or 23 Celsius. But the rain should be back on Saturday morning, along with temperatures dipping down to a high of 65 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 Celsius. And now, of course, before we go, let's take a look at what's going viral in Israel on tubing.
The party was nice, the party was pumping. And everybody having a ball.
Aw, it's the best way to work out. It's really the only way to work out. It's with puppies. All right. Well, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.43 shekels to the American dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube and Roku TV pages. I'm Aaron Porras. Thank you so much for watching.